let's talk about what happened with Bungie. I have the press release in front of me. A new path for Bungie. This was 9 hours ago by Pete Parsons, who was the studio head. I don't know if he's the studio head anymore, because I do have a tweet here from Jeff Grubb, where Grubb says, this was 7 hours ago. Someone had responded, "Hey, Jeff Grubb, have you heard anything on this, situation with Bungie?" And according to Jeff Grubb, this is his official account. He says Herman Hulse runs Bungie now. All right, so that happened. And he goes on to say, also, they attempted to soften the blow by sending many people from Bungie into SIE instead of just cutting them. I thought the number of jobs lost was going to be closer to 350. It is 220. That's still 220 humans. That's a lot of jobs. That's a lot of people that are unemployed. But let's get into it. Hargeet, I know you're abreast to what's going on. Again, here on Double Barrel Gaming, we're going to cover it in more depth on Friday morning's Breakfast at Boom. I have to read everything. I want everything in front of me. I want to do proper show notes to be able to go and just read it verbatim. But let's talk about this, because Bungie from inception, from the initial report and of them being acquired for $3.6 billion, I think many people in the community, including myself, it was a bit of a head scratcher. I don't know why a lot of people equate that to them just needing to buy somebody or something after the ABK announcement. Maybe that's what it was. Bungie was considered by many, Hargeet, as the quote-unquote savior for PlayStation in regards to their live service games, which they have none at the time of this purchase. They had The Last of Us 2 online in production. We heard that they also canceled a Twisted Metal game. That's disastrous. There is, of course, the Spider-Man multiplayer or multiverse Spider-Man game that looked absolutely amazing from Insomniac. That was canceled. There was also rumors of a quote-unquote military shooter, which I believe, this is just me, that it was SOCOM. I could be wrong. I'm probably wrong, but it's probably because I really want a new SOCOM. So now they go and they get Bungie. Bungie comes out, and it honestly has been a bit of a shit show ever since. Let's get into what is going on at Bungie with PlayStation, because it appears that hostile takeover of people being removed off of the Bungie board because of lack of profits for their last DLC.
Yeah.
It looks like it happened.
Yeah. Look, we had I don't know if it was rumors or if it was actual direct information from them that if the final shape, I think that was the last DLC, did not do well, that there could be major changes coming to Bungie, right? We definitely saw the layoffs they had before. They were trying to restructure themselves to be profitable enough to maintain their self-publishing, I guess, like the independence. I don't know if there's something specific in the language there, but they were kind of on their own, even though they were owned by Sony. But yeah, that was apparently going to end. The board was going to be split in, it was 3 people, 1 Sony, 2 Bungie, and then it was going to flip if they couldn't maintain their profitability to become more Sony than Bungie. Yeah, this is kind of unfortunate. It is what it is, but everybody saw it. We saw this, Final Shape was not doing financially well. It did okay. It didn't do terribly. It did okay, but and it was apparently critically well received. Yeah. But it did not bring the customer base back, the player base back. It just didn't. And unfortunately for Bungie, that was the final straw. It kind of meant that they had to let go, right? So, J-Rock had, I think it was on your show, said that, who saves the savior?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know who does save the savior. It's not like Sony has a pedigree of understanding live service. And if you take a look at what Jim Ryan has done up to now, I am left a little confused. Like, he said that we're going to learn from the mistakes of the other folks that have entered in this market. And so far, I'm not seeing the learnings. Taking your premier single player campaign studios and telling them to make live service games, that's a massive fail. I mean, you've just seen it over and over. It just does not work. And yet that's what he wanted to do. And so when Factions 2 is made and it's not live service enough and they cancel it, right? Where the people making it are like, this is a fun game. We think people will enjoy this game. We're loving it. And they're like, yeah, but it ain't seeing the light of day because it's not live service enough. And it's like, well, what did you expect? It never works. It never works. Like, this is just not a good formula. And yet that's exactly what they did. And they took a lot of the Bungie people to make those other studios work out. It didn't work out. And here you go. Right. And so now Bungie suffered for it. They've always had kind of an iffy, run without having a backing, right? So they had Microsoft to back them with Halo. That was probably their heyday. And then they had Activision to back them with Destiny. And they had access to a lot of the studios at Activision to supplement theirs to give them the content, right? And that's how they were able to make that work. And then they left it. And then since then, they've kind of floundered. They've had some good DLCs. They've had some good times, but mostly it's been kind of meh. And then Sony picked them up. Sony, of course, could never help them because they don't know what to do, right? This is kind of the problem of like live service. It's not easy. It's not an easy thing to figure out. To the point of, yes, Bobby Kotick's an asshole, but good God, did he pick up the right things at the right time and do the right moves to make that Call of Duty thing the engine that it is right now, and to make it so that it continues to sustain the way it does? That is not an easy thing to do, but he pulled it off. And so you have to give him kudos for that, even though he's an asshole. But this is the way it is. You need to have that kind of mentality. You have to understand what's going to make it work. What do you have to invest? How do you get your revenue and make it profitable? And he made it happen, right? And so again, this is not easy to do. You have to have a ridiculous, like offhand wonder like Minecraft come out and just like continue to sustain. That's not normal, right? Roblox. Who thought that was going to be the thing it is? But it is, and it just continues to keep getting consumers for it, and it keeps working. Like, it is what it is. Who thought Fortnite would be the game that it is, right? But it is, right? It started to flounder when it came out, and they decided to copy the PUBG model, and suddenly it became this big game. It's sad to see that Bungie is going to be what it is. I was hoping Destiny would be a next level Halo. To me, it was very disappointing. It did not meet that level for me at all. I was very disappointed in that campaign. And then the raids thing, I did that a few times, and I'm like, yeah, okay, I don't care. It's just not something I'm going to spend a lot of time on. I wanted more story. I wanted more, like give me that like character development and what's going on with the universe. And I know they kind of did that with the DLCs, but I'm like, you lost
Taken
me when
King
you
was a
that.
turnaround for it for sure.
And fair enough, but I'm like, you lost me when I paid $70 for your game, and it still didn't give me $60 for your game, and it didn't give me a freaking campaign that I cared about.
Well, the cardinal sin with that was the fact that you had to go outside of your actual game to get information on the game. Yeah, that's not good.
I didn't need much when I put in that Halo disc in my freaking Xbox, and I land on that Halo, and I'm like, what is this? And like, I was hooked on the game. I didn't need anything external to make that happen. It just worked. And that was the thing that like I just missed. I didn't see that. This happens. Most studios change over time. A lot of the original talent is gone, right? They moved on to other places. It is what it is, right? So we'll see where things are. Even up to now, Halo is still, to me, better than Destiny. I know a lot of players like the raids and the things that Destiny brings to the table, and I'm sure the content is good. I just lost it when I couldn't even play the main campaign, and I'm like, I don't care about these characters. It's just boring to me. But either way, as far as Bungie, what happens going into the future? Anybody's guess, right? How are they going to do better when the folks that made all that stuff work aren't the ones running it anymore? I keep hearing how like that somehow Sony is going to bring an execution mentality to it. It's like, execution of what? You don't know how to make a live game. Look at your history. It doesn't work. You don't have it. It just doesn't work. So like, how is this going to work? Even Microsoft, who has that capability, still bungled it with 343, right? It's not easy. It's just not. And like, so we'll see what they come up with, and if it's going to be better or worse. On top of that, several hundred people more now lost their job. This sucks. It is what it is. There's a super chat that's sad. I don't know
Yeah,
if
we're
you
gonna
read it
we're gonna
yet,
get
but
to that in a second. Yeah.
but this is the world, right? And so it's sad that this happened, but it was predictable. We knew it was coming. We knew it was coming, right? Jeff Grubb had mentioned this maybe a month ago that hey,
Yeah.
there are going to be some issues coming up with
Sure did.
Bungie based on the performance of Final Shape, right? So it wasn't something we weren't expecting. We were expecting. It's just a question of when, and here it is. It drops, right? So sad. It's sad. It is what it is. Bungie is not the Bungie of old. And that happens. Like I don't know if you could say BioWare is the BioWare of old either, right?
Oh no, they're
We'll see what
they're a
happens.
shell of their former self for sure.
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
We'll see what happens with the next Dragon Age, and they're working on a new Mass Effect, and my hopes aren't there anymore. But I hope it's still good. But certainly it's not that team that made the continuously awesome games they were doing, right? So we'll see what happens. What this leaves Bungie with, where they go from here. Is this going to be the same roadmap for them? Are they? I think they were trying to retool to make the next story arc for Destiny. Is that dead now? Are they moving on to Marathon? We're probably going to find out more, as you were saying, Boom. We have more to get, right? We have more news to get still, but we'll find out over the next months. What is the path for Bungie going forward? But yeah, I'm saddened by this, but on the other hand, I'm not surprised, right? Because we all knew it was coming. It's just a question of when, unfortunately. But I don't know that Sony can do anything about it. I don't know how they fix it. We'll see. But so far they have Concord, which is looking like meh, and they're deciding to charge for it when they should not be. That's not a good.
I don't think people would play
decision.
it even if it was free. Like honestly, it is very paint by numbers with the characters.
Yeah,
it just is.
Which again, maybe it works, maybe it does. But if it's not free to play, and your major consumer that plays that kind of game is expecting free to play, it's just you can't keep shooting yourself in the foot like that. But again, I don't know. We'll see what they do with it. But to me, there are a lot of management issues at PlayStation right now, and they have to in my opinion, and I know the industry won't care, but in my opinion, they have a lot to prove because they kind of banked on their big cinematic experiences, and that is failing them now because they cost too much.
It's completely unsustainable now.
Exactly. Yes. And now once that's started to fail, they were like, oh, let's pivot to live service. And I'm like, pivot to live service. That's not something you just do willy-nilly. Nope. You have to come up with a game that people want to play. And that usually comes from somebody who has a weird idea and they just put it together. A PAL world out of nowhere. Like, okay, I'm going to copy freaking Pokemon, but make it Pokemon with guns and let's see what happens. Okay. And what was it? 10 people did that or something? 12 people make that game?
Yeah, it was
25 million players later.
Yeah.
Right? You can't just manufacture it. It has to be something somebody's passionate about. They're just like, I think this will be fun. Let me play it. Let me try it. Oh, cool. It worked. People liked it and they played it. Right. I don't know that you can go and make a cinematic, which is what Concord is, right? A cinematic, hero shooter or a cinematic arena shooter and just say, oh, this is going to work. It's not.
Yeah. I think the problem with Concord is there's no, you're charging $40 for one. It's labeled as a cinematic hero shooter, but you don't get to know the characters too well. There's no PvE, like Overwatch promised, but that didn't happen. Right. and the characters just come off as Temu Guardians of the Galaxy, and it's not good, Wish
I
Guardians
of the Galaxy. I would have said Dollar Tree, but it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah. Oh, boom! You say that because you're trying to get sponsored, huh? You're trying to get a nice little Temu sponsor.
Look, I mean, they still have a strong brand, which is what keeps PlayStation going. So hopefully that will continue to allow them to sustain, but they do have a massive issue to go figure out, right? So it's not as simple as hey, they just make these bangers. Do they really? And if it was that simple, then why aren't they investing in bangers? Sony is not investing in that. They're investing in movies. They're investing in TV.
They're also investing in music because you see all the money that they spent on catalogs recently, millions.
So that's where they're seeing their growth, and they're trying to take all their game IP and put it into TV and movies, right? Okay, fair enough, but you kind of have to sustain this gaming thing too, or what is the plan, right? So I will see. This is just a big domino, unfortunately, that happened to have to fall. I hope it means that they're gonna retool and figure things out. Good luck to Herman and the team. I don't know what this really means for Bungie, I also don't know what means for Firewalk, right? Like, is that going to be like closing next year or not? We'll see. We'll see. There's just a lot of turmoil on that side, but they still have a strong brand. They can still pull it off. They just have to kind of turn things around a bit. They have a strong brand. Nintendo was able to pull it out of
they're still the market leader. Let's not make a mistake, ladies and gentlemen. They are still the market leader. They are still selling consoles, but I think where we get into the weeds is the mushy middle, right? Obviously, Concord is expected to be. They were hoping Concord was going to be their Helldivers Part 2, right? Helldivers 2 came out, did bank numbers, not so much on the PlayStation side, mostly on PC. I mean, it was like a 70-30 split. And as it gained popularity, more people played it on PC than they did on PS5. That's the numbers don't lie, folks. That's a fact. And it doesn't look like it's gonna hit. It looks like it's going to be DOA, and that $40 price point at inception is people just not gonna tune in. They're just not. Viking, let's get your hot take on what's going on with Bungie. This is something that, like Hargeet said, we're not surprised by. The writing has been on the wall. Obviously, the $3.6 billion, a lot of that money, or not a good chunk of the money, was for retention, keeping people, right?
It wasn't for buying cars?
It wasn't supposed to be, but apparently someone on that team bought a lot of them, actually. But it's interesting because when it was announced by Jim Ryan and company that they were buying them, it was for how the wealth of knowledge that came with the purchase of how to sustain games as a service. J-Rock said it months ago, who is going to save the savior? Well, it's not going to be PlayStation. If they can't get Concord to work by Herman Holtz taking over Bungie, is he going to make it better? I'm going to tell you this right now. This is you. If you think that there was an issue before with keeping people, this layoff is going to leave a lot of people feeling very uneasy, and there is going to become a retention problem at that company, if it's not one already. They've already let 220 people go. That's just the start. I think that if they can't figure it out, there's going to be more. It's going to be devastating. This is a year that has been egregious for layoffs in the gaming industry. It is unbelievable how many people have lost their job in an economy that nobody in this country wants to admit that there's a recession. It is bad. And again, this just makes another ugly notch in the belt of PlayStation that listen, they are floundering. I know that people are going to be mad at me and throw the virtual tomatoes that, but boom, they sell consoles. Okay. You told me that 100 times. They're selling consoles. What else are they doing? This is what I want to know. If you have that answer, let me know. The super chats that have come in, don't worry, before we get out of here, I'm going to read all of them. I'm sorry that it's just been one of those kind of shows that's a little bit crazy. We're going to get to them in a second. Viking, let's get your hot take on the Bungie situation.
So you brought up a good point about retention for the studio after all the fallout from this, but I think I'm more concerned with, let's say Avalanche, for example. Do they want to be bought by Sony at this point, knowing what happened with Bungie?
Great point.
Right? Because like when you think about it, they had layoffs to begin with. You guys aren't making money, right? And then from all Destiny fans that are out there, they put out a banger, right? Final Shape was that thing for them, right? It just didn't. So the people that worked there put their hearts and soul into it. They knew Sony was serious about axing people if they didn't get the money or make a good game or whatever. They make a good game or good DLC rather. Highly reviewed by critics, and then still get axed, right? So it's like if we as a studio get purchased by Sony, we make a good game, right? It's highly reviewed, and the same could be said for Hi-Fi Rush. I think we were all upset about that, right? but like whenever you look at something as big as Bungie, and yeah, what's that mean for other studios that are looking to get purchased? Like, would Sony be a good fit at that point? And probably not. They don't know what they're doing right now. You know what I mean? And it's not the fault of the studios, Insomniac, Naughty Dog. Like, they're all really good at their craft and make the games that creatively what they want, right? But now you got higher ups and investors, like they want that Fortnite money, they want that Call of Duty money. That's why they had that big push towards gas games, right? And they don't have enough patience and risk take. They can't do the risk taking for that, right? Like to do that. Like we saw Foam Stars, Concord. And somebody said in chat, like Concord game gunplay is fun, right? Like I had a good time with it. It's just with that $40 price point, and from what I've seen from it, it's just not going to succeed.
Well, I mean, just to add some context to what you're saying about about Concord, you played it, you enjoyed it, but here's the problem: you also played Marvel Rivals, which is
woo, boy, don't get me started on Marvel Rivals.
Right. So I'm using Venom. I'm telling you right now, I'm gonna rock Venom. He is dope. Right.
Yep.
You're going up against a free-to-play game right now. They just announced Robert Downey Jr. as Doom, Deadpool, Wolverine, making bank. Right. So people are they're gonna flock to that. Oh, and P.S. by the way, Concord launches a couple of weeks before. Oh, I don't know. What is that? Oh, Black Ops 6.
That's right.
Dude, it's just, it makes no sense. It just doesn't.
Yeah, it really doesn't, man. So like what's happening with Bungie is extremely unfortunate. And I'm glad, like is it Bethesda, I believe, that's finally unionizing. Now I understand that unions won't help with most layoffs, right? But they do add a certain level of protection for employees. And what was happening with them, people being notified by Twitter, trying to log in, not having access anymore, like quiet fired, like people give these people that made you millions of dollars some dignity, man.
Yeah.
Like, so, like it's just ridiculous, dude. Like more and more, like every year, this goes for all sides with these layoffs, man. Like it seems like if I'm young and I want to get into the gaming space, I might not want to because it's seeming more and more like a gig job every day, instead of a career. It's really trash, man.